Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another segment of the Black Girl Encourage Her. I am your hostess, Sheniqua Inspires, and I am setting the stage for you all. I am bringing in some heavy hitters, and we are bringing forth the encouragement for everybody. We just so happen to be doing it from a Black girl's perspective. So, my special guest today, again, I'm not going to sit here and try to hype you all up. You know, I bring in some really, really good people. And this is one of my new sister friends. So, please, let's welcome to our stage Miss Dawidi. Hello, Dawidi.
Hello,
How
hello,
are
Sheniqua.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am blessed. Thank you so much for your yes. Thank you for stopping by the Black Girl Encourage Her to bring forth some words of encouragement to the people. And I know you're geared up for this, but let's start by you introducing yourself to the audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sheniqua, let me begin first by just saying thank you. It is quite an honor and a privilege just to be on your show. Thank you for what you're doing and how you're impacting lives. So, my name
Mhm.
is Dawidi Baker-Davies, and by profession, I am a nurse. I'm a business technology consultant. I'm a businesswoman. My non official accolades include being a wife, being a daughter, being an aunt, being a sister. And most importantly, I am a woman. So I am wonderfully and fearfully made. I
Yes.
am original. I am one of a kind. I am a masterpiece. There is no duplication. I am
Come on now.
authentic. I am genuine. I am natural. I'm from the earth, grounded in the earth, and I'm needed and necessary in this age.
Mm,
I am
there
the
you go.
yes.
Woo! Come on now. I love it. See now, look, you hit on two words, and the Holy Spirit started tapping me on my shoulder. You
Wonderful.
are needed and necessary. My God. Look, we can stop right there. We can stop the whole show right there. That Dawidi came all this way to share and to display to us and to tell us that we are all needed and we are necessary. Now, Dawidi, we met just a few months ago in the beautiful land of South Africa.
Yes.
That was such an amazing trip. And we were there as a part of a group, and we had people who were speaking on the TEDx stage, myself included. We got the chance to tour not only South Africa, but we went into Botswana and we were able to explore and discover this beautiful land. And it was my first time in South Africa. Was it your first time as well?
Yes, it was my first time in South Africa and Botswana. Yes.
Nice. Now, a question that I would love to ask you is, did you learn anything in particular about yourself during that experience?
Oh, most definitely. There
Yes.
were many lessons to learn. I think the one that resounded with me and still does is that I had lost myself in all of
Mm,
what I do and all of the different capacities that I help others. That I had lost who Dawidi was, and this trip or the trip to South Africa and Botswana allowed me to reconnect, to find myself again. So I'm truly
mm.
grateful for that experience.
Now let's go a little bit deeper into that. How did that happen? Could you share with us, like, were you out meditating first thing in the morning? Like, how did you get that opportunity, that moment in time to reconnect with who you were during that trip?
I think it's when we were doing the water safari on the
Mm,
boat and just seeing the land, seeing how the animals were in their natural habitat, feeling
yeah.
the peace that was there because there was no care. There was the sky, there was the water, and it was just nature and was breathing in all of what the Creator has given us.
Mm,
And I just found that to be so relaxing, and I was able to exhale. And I think that's when I reconnected with myself.
I love it. I love it. We are all we can all at some point in time relate to that movie, Waiting to Exhale.
Yes.
That is a classic movie for the culture, for us as women. And yes, it can come from a life experience, right? So in that movie, those women were each going through their own very significant moments in life, and it was shaping and
Yes.
molding them into who it was that they were becoming. And I love the fact that I always think about that word becoming. I feel like at every moment, every waking day, we are all becoming a new being. Like the old has passed away and the new has now manifested for the now, right? The new has manifested for the now. And we get to redefine and we get to tap in into that newness in our lives each and every day. So whether we're at home just experiencing things, or if we're taking these like that trip to South Africa and Botswana was really an experience.
A
It was not a
lifetime.
vacation. It was really a lifetime
Mhm.
experience, and it was needed and it was necessary. And I'm glad to hear that you were able to tap in to who Dawidi is, and as you claimed it in your bio, in your opening, you are needed and you are
Yes.
necessary.
Yes.
Now, let's rewind just a little bit, because you did say that you are a nurse.
Mhm.
And then you started talking about some stuff about business. How did the two worlds even collide together? Like how we mix all of that?
So I actually have a degree in business administration, and I used to run two medical practices. And when people would call out, I would have to fulfill their job description. So I would be,
Wow.
for example, the front office person. I could do the x-rays, and I worked with an orthopedic surgeon, so she taught me how to take off a cast, how to put one on. And
Wow.
one of the patients was the one who came up to me and she said, "You know, you do everything as a nurse. Why don't you go to school and become a nurse?" And she even offered me her books. And then I applied and got into the program.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you worked as a nurse, but now you're still utilizing those skills in business, and you are growing and developing and cultivating that business side of you. So you have the healthcare side, and you also have the knowledge and the wisdom for businesses. Now, was this something that happened, you know, in your early, like, I don't need you to tell us how old you are, but did this happen in your early years, or was this something that kind of manifested and molded itself towards the latter portion of where you are now in your life?
I it happened probably about maybe about 12, 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's funny because the first time I worked in healthcare, I was managing the practice, and the physician had told me, "You need to become a nurse." And I said,
Mm,
"No, I'm going to stick with business." So I went after I got through working with her for a bit, I went back and started working for corporate America. And then she opened up another practice and she contacted me and she said, "I want you to come back and manage both practices for me now." And so this time
mm.
around, I think my mindset was a bit different, and I just embraced it a little bit differently and said, I think this nursing thing is not a bad thing also. So let's try and mesh them together.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So I wanted to just kind of highlight that point, because people often think that they have to make these decisions at 16, 17 years old. Like
Oh,
straight out of high school, people need to know what it is they're going to do, who they want to be when they grow up. That's always the question that they ask, kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? At 5, honey, you just imagine it. You are just
yes,
kind of pulling things from the sky. I want to be a firefighting astronaut. And it's like, okay, like, I don't know if there's fires up in space, but go for it, right? So we
right.
allow kids to be who they are and say what it is that they want to be. But actually, we really need to start asking that question of full-fledged adults.
Yes.
People who now have the comprehension, they have some level of life experience that they now would be able to define what it is that their future self is going to look like. So, not saying we wasted it on the kids, but it is a great question for us as adults. And I made that reference just because I want my viewers to understand it's never too late to start again. It's never too late to say, you know
Mhm.
what? I want to redefine how
Mhm.
the world sees me.
Correct.
Or not even redefining, but what about even just adding a skill set? So the world had already saw you as this businesswoman, this leader, this manager in this field, and you were able to wear these other hats, even though you didn't have this official title or this
Mhm.
official training. You still were able to learn the skills that were required, and you were able to rise up to any challenges, anything that was going on in your field. But then you said, you know what? My mindset shifted, it
Yep.
opened up, and then you just started thinking about, hey, how can I add more skill sets to myself? And then that's what I'm hearing you did when you brought in nursing, and you've had some great success as a nurse and still tapping in and helping people in the business realm. So tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do for corporations and organizations. I know you do a lot of travel with the role that you're working in. So tell us a little bit more about what that looks like for you.
So I am a business technology consultant. So I actually work with companies and go in and train people on it could be their software or whatever they're trying to roll out at that particular time. So you have to learn what it is that they have. For example, if it's Epic, learning that in detail so that you can actually teach people how to use it. If it is a
Mhm.
communication device, learning it thoroughly so that whichever way they pose those questions, you're able to answer that. But I would like to piggyback a little bit on what you said earlier, and that is as
Sure.
adults, I think we sometimes box ourselves in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
this is all that I am. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's a fear to go out of what in your mindset you've created, and that fear limits you. And I think we need to kind of change the focus on it and embrace the fear, but also work through it.
Mm.
So I've had three, if I think about it, this part of my life now is a third profession that I'm going into. Am I open to others? Most definitely. So
Yes.
I take courses to try to expand my breadth in different subjects and to become well versed in them. But I think as adults, we should not limit ourselves. We should be more willing
Mm-hmm.
to embrace whatever life has to offer. South
Yes.
Africa, for example, was that. I was fearful to go on that trip,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, you know what? I don't know what's on the other side of that. So let's go and find out. So that adventurous spirit that we had as kids, don't let
Yes.
it die. It is still there. Wake it up
Mm-hmm.
inside and embrace that.
I love that. I love it. That fear. Dawidi, let's talk about fear. Let's talk to the people. Let's just go right there. Let's talk to the people about this thing, fear. How does someone, I mean, because you make it sound so simple, right? It's always simple when someone says it, but how does somebody really, or do they really ever get over the fear in order to move on to what I like to define as that next level or that next step in life?
I think you do. I think
Mm,
in many aspects you do. You may not be realizing it when you're
mm,
doing it because you're just so much in the motion of doing it. But I think you overcome it in different ways. Because I think of my younger self and the younger self that didn't know who she was. So was in relationships or had friends that may not have been the best thing for her. And then now seeing the person today that is able to say, yeah, maybe 20 years ago we could hang out and that was cool. But now I'm on or in a different direction. So instead of us being buddy buddies, we just have to now be associates, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or if you're giving a task at work, and the I mean, technology is always changing. And the
Yeah.
younger generation has from the time they're 2 or 3 years old, they're holding these phones in their hands. So they're
Yeah.
already
That's right.
way ahead of us. And you
Yeah.
go, when I went back to school, actually, I think I was one of the older students when I went back to nursing school. So I'm looking in the room, I'm like, wow, okay. But instead of being fearful of that, they had younger brains, right? So I would find the person in the group that I thought that excelled in their work and partner with them,
Yeah.
and then
Tap
go
into
from
that
there.
young brain.
Yeah, tap
That's
into the
right.
young brain, right?
Yeah.
And learn from them, and they're learning from you also. But that was overcoming fear in little steps. We do it every day. And I think the key is you see it, you don't run from it, because life in itself, I mean, leaving your house nowadays, if you look at the news,
Tell
think
it.
about
Yeah.
it. Think about it.
Yep.
Some people are so afraid that they're afraid to leave their homes, or
Mm-hmm.
afraid to go out to dinner, or afraid to do this and afraid to do that. Do not allow that to limit who you are. You're much stronger than that. You're deeper than that. You're greater than that. And that's the person you need to find. And you do that by taking little steps. By taking little steps.
I love that. Yeah. You have to face the fear
Mhm.
because honestly, it's not going anywhere. It's going to stand there, it's going to huff and it's going to puff and it's going to try to blow you down. But you have to be able to say, you know what? I'm still here. And again, I love it. I tell you, when you were saying it, it just did something in my spirit. It brings us back to the needed and the necessary. So even when fear rises up in front of you, you are still needed and you are still
Oh, most
necessary. So
definitely.
you've got to get on the other side of that fear because there are people, yourself is one of them. There are people who are in need of what it is that you have. They need that testimony in
Correct.
order for them to conquer that fear that they are facing.
Hmm.
So I love that sense of encouragement to tell people, you know what, you're going to be afraid, but you still have to take it one step at a time and to push through whatever it is. And it does get to be a little less scarier
Yes.
after you're in it, right?
Correct.
It's always scarier, when it's like the boogeyman as a kid. It's always scarier until you face it, until you get in the room and you're looking under the bed and you're like,
There's nothing
but I
there.
don't see nothing. I don't see anything. It's not there. It literally was just a figment of my imagination. And our imagination is what trumps that fear up to be bigger and
Yeah.
grander than it normally is. So I love how you took this trip. Did you know that that was going to happen? Did you know that you were going to find or rediscover Dawidi when you went to Africa?
No, actually, the whole purpose of going on that trip was to do the TED Talk. And
Hmm.
I thought I was just going to watch people do the talk, right? I didn't consider myself even being a panelist at the
Yeah,
talk. And
yeah.
my cousin that told me about the trip, she was like, "Oh no, you're going to do the talk also." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you're going to." And she said because and I said, "But there's so many different people. There were so many different backgrounds that seem
Hmm.
to have more experience than I would have, or more to say." And she said, "You have more than enough to say. You just be you."
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because I think that's something that happens for many of us.
Hmm.
Um, we discredit ourselves,
Correct.
right? And I'll tell a quick story. I was sharing with you that there is a nursing conference that's coming up in North Carolina, the Nurse Boss Summit, and it's a fantastic nursing conference where you've got all of these different, and it's not just nurses; it's healthcare leaders, people in the industry, getting together and learning different aspects. So nurses who attend, healthcare professionals who attend can actually get CE credits, and so
Wonderful.
there's things that are there that's going to help to cultivate their skill sets in the profession. But then there's also the business side of it. So they're bringing in nurse entrepreneurs who can now teach and shape and mold and add some type of insight to these leaders, because everybody's a leader who's coming
Correct.
in. So they had this conference a few years ago, and I was invited to come and to speak. I was one of the speakers. So when you put that speaker's hat on, you're saying to yourself, okay, I am a leader in my industry. I get to now go and impart what it is that my words of wisdom are, and bring, add to the table, right? There's a buffet going on, and now I get to add a dish to the table. So I get there, and I'm, excited. I was teaching people in the healthcare profession. I was teaching them about their social media presence. That's why
Okay.
I'm always on you, Dawidi, about your social media,
Yes, you
right?
are. Yes, you are.
So I was teaching people about how to create a social media presence, right? So I go in there. I had one of my sister friends there. She was helping me out as my assistant, and I had no topic. Like, I had the topic, but I didn't know what I was going to do. It was all cultivated on the drive there. When I showed up at the room, I was like, okay, which one is my room? And that's when the thoughts and the ideas flowed together. Then there was a moment at this Nurse Boss Summit where we were all sitting in a room, right? And they were doing like awards, and they were having people come up and speak. And I'm sitting in this room full of nurses and nurse leaders, and something, now I just did my presentation. I
Exactly.
just went in there. I was in the room. I did what I had to do. The people came out. They were lively. They were bubbling with all of this newfound information on social media. They were celebrating me as being a knowledgeable person in this field, in this industry. And then it's time to sit in the room, a bigger room,
Mm-hmm.
amongst all of these people, including the people that I just taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I start to shrink.
Wow.
I literally start to shrink. I literally start to, that negative self talk to say, girl, you don't belong in this room. Look at these people up on the stage. Look at these people getting these awards. Look at these people that are being celebrated and highlighted. They've got all of these accolades. They've got this, they got that. You don't really belong here.
Mm.
This is something that you need to grow in order to sit comfortably in this room. And luckily, the Spirit of God is dwelling with me,
Yes.
was able to come in and say that's nonsense,
Correct.
because you wouldn't even be in the room if you didn't belong in the room. So let's talk to people, Dawidi, who discredit themselves. And the funny thing about it is that they're in the room
They're already
discrediting
there.
themselves.
They're
They're
already
already there,
there. Yeah.
right? And they discredit ourselves. What kind of encouragement could you offer somebody? And I think the world loves to call it imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think it can go deeper. It can go into different facets where we're literally telling ourselves that we don't belong, that we don't have what it takes. What would you say to someone that says that?
Oh, I would say to anyone that feels that way, that realize that you are unique. You are truly a masterpiece. There's no one else out there like you. When the Creator made you, He formed you with His own hands. So He took
Mhm.
time. He took time to create your face, your eyes, your nose, but He also took time to impart in you everything that you need,
Mm,
everything that you need. So you're well equipped.
yes.
Self affirmations, you do that quite a bit. I think that's one way to encourage yourself. Find something or a phrase that you can say, if not daily, or put it on your bathroom window, bathroom mirror, put it in the car. I used to put them in my car on the dashboard.
Nice.
Yes, I would put it on my car on the dashboard. It could be verses from a poem. It could be verses from the Bible. It could be whatever I found encouraging at that moment. But it made me realize that I was not only enough, but more than enough. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of times our past experiences or the negative talk that people have imparted into us are comes back. And instead of storing that in, eject it.
Yes.
Eject
Yes.
it. It's poison.
Yes.
It doesn't belong
Yes.
inside of you. So take it out. And you can, once you take it out, you must replace it with something. So that space is not a void. So you now replace it with positive things. Positive, like I said, it could be words of affirmation, whatever whatever you feel is good enough. So I'm wonderfully and fearfully made. That is one of my favorite things to say,
Hmm.
because that lets me know that I'm truly an original. There
Yes.
is no one out there like me, and there's no one out there like you. Whatever you bring to the table, only you can bring it.
That's true.
Somebody else could be in that same profession, but the way they're going to impact people is not the same way you're going to do it. You know, as a nurse, you can go in a patient's room and another, maybe the PCT was there before you, or maybe even the physician was there before you. But whatever you're going to say to that person and the way you say it, they're able to receive it in a different way. Why? Because it came from you. That spin or what was unique in you was what convinced them or was what calmed their nerves. So
I
it's super.
love that. I love it. And that was a really, really good example. So you can't sit around and say, well, the doctor just came out of the room. Why do I need to go in there?
Exactly.
Or the aide was just in the room. Why do I need to? Because they need you.
Right.
Everyone brings a uniqueness to the table. And even into the trip to South Africa at the TEDx panel, you did an amazing
Thank
job.
you.
And I don't think you realized that it was in you, that you did have that wealth of knowledge to be able to sit in amongst greatness because you are indeed great.
Yes.
So I think sometimes we get diluted in, and I agree with you that it oftentimes comes from the things that people have said to us in the past. We keep it, we harbor it, we kind of pull it close, we tuck it to the side, and it's like we don't do anything with it when it comes at us. We should be knocking it
Yep.
out the box
Yes.
as it's coming, putting a shield up to deflect it, but we
Mhm.
just take it in and we stash it and we store it. And then of course at the wrong time,
Most inopportune
time
time.
when it's time for you to get up on that stage, when it's time for you to do that thing that is needed and necessary, that's when that negative talk starts to rise itself up and starts to whisper in your ear. Even myself, people might see me on this platform and they say, wow, Shaniqua, you get on stages and you do this, you speak to people. There are times where I sit in rooms with them same people and I'm like, oh boy, I don't belong here. But luckily, I've got enough positivity stored up that
Yes.
runs to the rescue to say, girl, you already here.
Hmm.
What you mean? What you mean you don't belong here? You already here. Too
You're
late.
sitting at the table. You're already
Too
there.
late. So we do have to learn how to combat that negative self-talk with that positive self-talk. And Dawidi already listen, I'm holding on to this girl because that was good to my spirit. I'm gonna be chewing off of that for a long time. She gave you your first affirmation statement. I am needed and I am necessary.
Yes.
And if you keep telling yourself that, that's going to be enough for you to keep it's going to be a starting point for you to keep showing up because you are needed and you are necessary. So, Edie, let's talk about you and your business. What type of business venture are you stepping into? So you're now deciding to go into this land of entrepreneurship. What is it that you would love to serve this world?
Wow. I think for me, there's what I would want to focus on is what we're discussing now. I would really like to impact women, especially younger women. People, I would say teenagers to early 20s, because those are the most insecure years
Mm,
for, I think anyway, with you're still trying to find out who you are. You're still trying to find out where you belong, where you fit. And if you unfortunately match with the wrong person or in the wrong crowd, some of those decisions that you make are detrimental, or those decisions
Mhm.
can be so life altering that it will
Mhm.
take much time to recover.
Yes.
So, what I'm trying to cultivate or develop would be a program that can gear more towards that age group. And it could be not only changing their mindset, because I think we really have to remember that all of this shift that we're talking about has to occur here first,
Mhm.
because the battlefield is truly in the mind.
Yes.
It is truly in the mind. So when you are able to believe that you can do it, then yes, you can achieve it. So you need cheerleaders, because
Mhm.
maybe at home you didn't have that. Maybe you didn't grow up with that. Maybe all you had was, oh, you can't do, you're not going to be this, you're not going to be that. And you need someone to pour back into your spirit that yes, you can, and you will succeed at it. So
Yes.
that is what my next venture would be.
I love that. Going in and helping to shape,
Yes.
helping to be the starting shape for these young women. And so hopefully, oh darn, am I saying that I'm not a young woman? Um, hopefully,
We are all young women.
hopefully when they get to that next level of young womanhood,
Yes,
right?
young
That
woman.
next
This.
level. That's where I'm at. I'm in that next level of being a young woman. Um, they are more confident because honestly, it's more socially acceptable for people to have self-doubt, to be unsure of themselves, to have even that low self esteem at that younger age. So,
Mhm.
the teen age, young adult age, it's more socially acceptable. But what people fail to realize, if you don't cultivate a strong foundation during those years or even younger,
Yeah.
if you start it younger, it will combat the need for, you know, that younger year, that middle ground. It will
Mhm.
soften that blow, like, so you'll get less people that need it in that area. But we understand a lot of people didn't get it in their younger years, so that's a great net to launch out there to capture those people. And if you can get them in those younger years, you will then have less people in this second level of young adulthood, right? The second level feeling imposter syndrome, feeling like they're not enough, feeling that self doubt. So if we can focus on the different stages, we may be able to minimize how many people are left lingering in those stages. But
Correct.
kudos to you for wanting to go in and grab them at that young, impressionable age and really start to reshape them and help them be affirmed so that they understand that when they get to this beautiful age, they are everything that they need.
Yes.
Right? I like that. Now, I always tell this to my guests, there's always that one, because there's always that one person. And I totally accept there being that one person that still wants to hold on to the no, that naysayer, that one that says, you know what, it's all fine and good that it worked for you. But how do I start getting this type of feeling in my own life? So give us some practical steps. Do we talk to that individual that's like, it's great that you did it. It's great that, Sheniqua can do it. It's great that these other people can do it. But tell me, like, break it down to me like I'm in kindergarten. What do I need to do to rediscover who it is that I am and get to this place in life where I'm happy and feeling like I'm worth it?
Sure. I think one thing is to make time for yourself. We in today's society are running around doing so many things. You,
Mhm.
before you even get out of bed, there's a whole list in your head of things that you need to do. And a friend of mine told me this a while ago when she made a trip to Asia. And she said the way people do things they're very grateful, so they start their day being grateful. So I started to implement that in my life. So I get when I get up out of bed, if I have not said something that I'm grateful for, I go back in the bed and I
Mm.
restart the day, and I
Yeah.
lay there the extra 5 or 10 minutes until I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm grateful to be alive. That's one. Grateful
Mhm.
that I have my own strength, grateful that I have a room over my head or a roof over my head. And then I start from there and my attitude changes. So I'm not just looking at like, oh gosh, I got 10 things to do today. But my perspective is now, wow, what an opportunity it is to do this and to do that. So one of the things I would say would be one, start it even before you start your day, find something to be grateful for, even if it's just that you open your eyes that day. Find something to
Amen.
be grateful for. And then two would be to replenish yourself. You pour out. Most of the time, we're
Mm.
givers. And
Yeah.
it's rare that we find someone or something that allows us to pour back into us. And you have to find that. Now, it could be simply as one day a week taking an hour to do something you enjoy. Could be what, reading a book, it could be doing your nails, it could be just finding that quiet time that is just you, for you. That, and if you're a busy mom, maybe it's 30 minutes, whatever it is, but find that
Right.
time, create that time that is just for you. There's a commercial where the mom is in the bathroom, I think, eating a cookie, and she's pretending that she's taking a bath, but that was her me time, and that was probably 10 minutes. But you could see her wusa moment when she did that. And I think
Yes.
we need to make
Yes.
sure that we create that time within our schedule.
Yes.
The other thing I would recommend is also for pouring back into yourself. So pouring back into yourself could be a self-care day.
Yeah.
What do you do that allows you to replenish you? Sometimes it's just looking in the mirror and you're seeing the wrinkles, or you're seeing whatever it is that you thought is negative, and then speaking to yourself in the mirror and saying, you're beautiful, you're adequate. In fact, you're more than adequate.
Mhm.
And just pouring that back into you. Another thing you could do is sometimes we have to delve into those emotions, whether they're positive or negative, but we sometimes have to go deeper to get to the
Right.
root of things. Because if you do not, it springs up. Like
Yeah.
all of the plants, right? Winter comes and it looks like the whole garden is dead. There's
Yeah.
nothing there. But springtime comes and all of those roots that were there before come back to life. But if you're not rooted in something good, those roots
Mm.
that are coming back up are still those negative things, those negative energies. So you have to be able to delve into those emotions and sort through them. You may need professional help. If you
Mhm.
do so, recognize it, don't be afraid of it, and go and find it. Because
Yeah.
make the time for that, because it makes you a better you, one, but it makes you better to the other people, two, and it will help you find your purpose. It will give you that grounding that you need. So, the fourth thing I would say would be grounding. There is actual evidence that states that if you were to walk barefoot on the ground, that you're actually absorbing some of the earth's energy, and that can improve your mood, that can bring healing, that can de-stress you. So grounding could be you literally putting your feet on the ground, or grounding could be going for a walk in the middle of the day. I remember working somewhere in a building where we were there for 8 hours. So all you saw was that
Mhm.
cubicle. And I did
Yeah.
that probably for the first week. And then the second week, I started to bring magazines that I was interested in. In my breaks, I would go downstairs because there was a pond with the ducks there, and I would read. And that would take my mind somewhere else. It would just take me out of that, oh, the grind, and put me somewhere else for that 15 minutes or that 30 minutes. I came back in the building, I was more refreshed. My attitude, more positive.
Yeah.
So those are the few
It
things I
works.
would say.
I love it. That is such a great source of encouragement. And I'm hoping that my viewers are picking this up. Your voice. Your voice, as you were saying it, was so soothing and so enriching that it really made you start believing, like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I
Awesome.
can do that. Yeah, I can do that. So I thank you. I thank you for those words of encouragement. I hope my viewers took it all in and stored it, right? You may not need it right now, right? You might be good. You're like, oh, Black Girl Encourage is on. I'm good. But store it. Store it for on those days when you're trying to talk yourself out of the room, where you're trying to talk yourself out of applying, for the position.
Hmm.
Then you have it stored. So now you've got some positivity to combat some of that negativity that comes up. So, Dawidi, I thank you so much for being a guest here on the Black Girl Encourage Her today. Now, I know you're not a fan of social media yet.
Not yet. You're working. You're helping me with that.
Yet, but the people need you, right? You are needed and necessary. And social media just so happens to be one of the convenient ways that people these days are getting that help. So, um, what else? Like, what's your plans for getting people, um, getting around the people so people have access to you?
Well, with your help and expertise, I'm developing my Facebook presence. I think would be the first thing. I think that would
Okay.
be the first thing, and then after I've accomplished that, I can go into Instagram or on
Yes. All
Instagram.
right.
Yeah,
Baby steps. Good
baby
job. So
steps. Yes.
you all follow her on Facebook, Dawidi. Now it's Dawidi with two eyes in there, so you got to note the spelling. I'm also gonna have it in the description box, so you can look in the description box. You'll be able to click and find her because I want you all to stay connected, so that way you are able to get this source of positivity, this source of encouragement, and then you too can get your needs met so that you can continue to go forward and be what everyone else needs of you. So, Dawidi, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being a guest. Listen, you guys, that was super, super uplifting. I loved it. Again, like it was just something about her spirit that just ministered silently, just the way she was uttering the words that was so soothing and nourishing to my soul. So I thank you all for tuning in to this week's segment of the Black Girl Encourage Her. I know you were encouraged. I know you were. And I want you to make certain that you come back and you see us again the next episode, because we're going to keep this steady source of encouragement going. So until next time, you all have a blessed and beautiful week.